Yo, showtime, showtime!
What's going on?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to our show, Hack the Planet.
Hack the planet!
And for those late night hacks, Dope Cola, the soft drink of the elite hacker.
Hack the Planet. That's right. Got my Hack the Planet shirt on because that's kind of what I feel like right now. We've got ransomware on the rise. We've got critical infrastructure being hacked all over the place. And we have a special guest this week as usual. But this time, we're going to hear from the perspective of the ICS vendor. We'll hear their side of the story coming up on OT Exposed Raw. We're back again. Thanks for joining me and our guests and our other host, that guy, the co-host this time. I'm not going to promote him this time. Anyway, here we are again. Lots of stuff to talk about. It's Friday. You know what that means.
Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day.
Yeah, this is about as close as I get to a Hawaiian shirt. But lots of stuff, like I said, this week. We're actually going to hear from the perspective of the ICS vendor, a little bit different than what we normally have. So let's go ahead and that guy. Yes, that guy. We're going to introduce that guy again, the co-host.
It's that guy again. And
that
glad
guy.
to be back. Glad to be back for what I think is going to be a very interesting episode with a very interesting guest. So I'm anxious to get this started.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get this. Oh, wait.
I'm also,
just stop talking. Just stop talking.
No, you stop talking.
All right, go ahead.
Also, I'm just going to say I'm hiding in the basement because it's about 110 degrees outside. I think the asphalt is burning. So I'm hiding here until it stops burning.
I'm not going to give you any sympathy because you know where I live. So I live in hell. No, just kidding. It's Houston, Texas. And it's going to be getting to triple digits pretty soon. It'll stay that way. So, and it's humid. You know, I hate that. It's like, oh, but it's a dry heat. No, it's just damn hot. All right. So
it is.
All right. Well, so this week again, we're going to go back once again into Pascal's bag of ICS past. And let's everyone please welcome Don Cappelli, CISO at Rockwell.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, I think I kind of have a Hawaiian shirt on. It's purple. With
I think so too.
So I think that qualifies.
He's the only one. I didn't get that memo.
I think you know every Friday I play, or almost every Friday I play that Hawaiian shirt thing from the Office Space. So you should know that.
Next week. I promise. Next week I'll listen.
You don't keep your promises. All right. So welcome, Don. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't give us a little introduction. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your past, whatever you want.
Oh, well, let's see. So I started out as a programmer, programming nuclear power plants for Westinghouse. Then I went to Carnegie Mellon University, programming all kinds of different things, including a bioterrorism portal. And that kind of got me interested in security. So in 2001, I went to work for CERT at Carnegie Mellon, very first cybersecurity organization in the world. Fun place to start your security career. In fact, I took the job August 1st, 2001, and my role was to lead a project working with the Secret Service, incorporating cyber into their protective mission, which back then was gates, guards, and guns. And our first thing we had to protect was the Salt Lake City Olympics in February of 2002. I thought, what a cool, fun job this is. That was August 1st. September 11th happened 1 month later, and that was not a cool, fun job. That was a very, talk about baptism by fire. So that's where my passion for security comes from, that start I had. And then I ended up founding and being the director of the CERT Insider Threat Center. So insider threat was my area of expertise, wrote a book. And then Rockwell recruited me to start an insider risk program. I went there, started the program. A couple years later, the CISO quit, and here I am.
Right place, right time, but well qualified.
That's an awesome background.
So,
Thanks.
and I have a question. I'll have lots of questions throughout the show. That's what we do here. But you worked with the Secret Service at one point, and so did you get to work with what's his name from the hacker movies? Gill, not Vince Gill. What's his name? It's based off a real person in real life. That Secret Service agent, the guy that was like in the movie Hackers. And come on.
Which the
comments
hacker
audience?
movie?
You know what I'm talking about? It's the
I would say I probably did not.
yeah.
But
Anyway.
But it was what an unbelievable experience working with the Secret Service. I got to meet the president working with the Secret Service.
Aren't you supposed to keep that secret though? I don't know.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to kill you.
Somebody from our comments, what was the name of the Secret Service agent that was constantly trying to chase down the hackers in the movie Hackers? Tell me, and we'll talk about it later. All right. So one of the reasons why I was so excited to have you on our show today was because you bring not only a different perspective now, but a much needed perspective, because you are an ICS vendor. Your Rockwell obviously is an ICS vendor, and Richard Gill, that's the name. Thank you, Richard Gill. Yeah, thanks, Aaron, for shortening the name. So anyway, so it seems like that ICS vendors throughout this whole cybersecurity thing are being put in the spotlight, and it's almost in some cases a witch hunt, right? I mean, there are certain personalities out there that are just hammering on ICS vendors as if you guys aren't doing anything whatsoever. And I think that one of the things that I do want to, in addition to the news, one of the things that I do want to cover in our show today is get your perspective. I want to hear from you and your side of that story. So, do we want to talk about that first? We want to get to the news. That's up to you guys.
Let's address the big elephant in the room.
Okay.
Is it the exception?
I'm right here. Okay.
I was going to say,
All right.
who are you calling a big elephant?
It's me. You're pointing the wrong way. You're pointing actually to.
No, actually, on my
Yes.
screen, I'm pointing just the right way. No, wait,
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. So first of all, how has, and I imagine as an ICS vendor, leadership and everyone that works at Rockwell has to have thick skin because of all of this. But first of all, let's just to start with, I imagine that, as an ICS vendor with your automation control products and all that, I mean, you guys are absolutely addressing security. You guys are absolutely focusing on security. And so I guess as an opening statement, as if it pleases the court, would you like to, kind of say anything in general response to this sort of witch hunt and the accusations and kind of putting ICS vendors on the chopping block when it comes to insecure by design, et cetera, not doing anything?
Let me, because I'm an ex-insider from it. I can say without a shadow of a doubt, their stuff is being done. But keep in mind what sector we're in, right? This is equipment that's sitting in people's environment for decades, and things just slowly change. And
Exactly.
Even then, you can't make big giant changes that break everything, because now if a customer wants to implement it, they're going to have to tackle everything in their plan at once. So I know from being there that things are happening, and they have to be slow just by design.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Well, I was at Carnegie Mellon 25 years, and no, I never thought I would leave. No one else thought I would ever leave. And then Rockwell came along. And the reason that I left was because I realized Rockwell's products are embedded in every critical infrastructure there is, except maybe finance, but we're probably there too. And
Building automation, maybe?
yeah. So I realized, boy, if I want to make an impact, this is a place where I can make an impact. But I don't want to take this job unless they really take security seriously, because I don't want to go someplace and just hit my head against the wall. And I interviewed with them, and I told them, like, I am only going to come here if I'm going to have your support. And this was just to build the insider risk program. Because my fear was, what if an insider at Rockwell built a backdoor into our products so someone could get to our customers? And so I realized, yeah, they do take it seriously. And in building that insider risk program, I had support from the CEO on down. And then when I became CISO, I haven't run into roadblocks. I mean, the company as a whole, we understand the importance of security in our products. And you're right, Pascal. I mean, if someone has a product from, decades ago, we can't maintain
PLC 5.
decades
PLC
old.
5.
Yeah. So it's a difficult job, let me tell you. And when I see like solar wind, I mean, when NotPetya happened, that's when I realized, oh wow, look what they just did. Russia compromised this tax software company and used them to push out their NotPetya. And that's when I realized in 2017, oh boy, we can't let them do that to us, because if they wanted to sabotage critical infrastructure, that would be a great target. So the whole company understands that, all the way to our board. So yeah, I can say we worked really hard.
And so you are not only, at Rockwell as a company, you're not only implementing security measures and product design, but also, you have, security consulting practice. So you're helping your customers in multiple ways when it comes to security. And I guess here's another question. This one's kind of, it's pertinent, but it kind of out of left field. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but how does the supply chain issue right now affect, really everything at Rockwell when you're designing new products, PLC specifically with chips and all these chips? I know there's a lot of chips out of, Taiwan and other places, but the majority of our chips are coming out of China. And now we have not only a chip shortage, but we have the backdoor concern from China as well. And so how does that play into your current security mindset at Rockwell?
Yeah, so I would say about 3 years ago, we realized the risk, right when we realized that we are part of the supply chain for our customers and we pose a risk to them. We also realized our supply chain poses a risk to us. And so we had a high priority security initiative to look at supply chain security, specifically our product supply chain security, hardware and software. So the executive order that came out in May, it mandates that you have to, it mandates product supply chain security. And luckily we're way ahead of the game, because now we have all of the processes built. We've worked with our product supply chain, not the whole thing. Now we have to really push it out to the entire supply chain. But it's really interesting. I just gave a keynote on Wednesday this week at a conference, and it was on supply chain security. And it's amazing. You can do a whole keynote on supply chain security. Like, you think third-party risk, it's not that big of a deal. But then when you think of like, what are all the third parties that you do business with? It's huge. Every year we add more and more third parties to that third-party risk supply chain security initiative.
Especially when you consider that your supply chain is coming from countries that are considered to be a cyber adversary. I mean,
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess because at CERT, I started with the Secret Service, but then I ended up working mostly with the intelligence community. So I have that mindset, and not everybody has that mindset. They don't really see, you can't trust anybody, so you don't have to distrust certain countries more than others. But I disagree with that.
Yeah, you never know where your products or the raw materials for your products came from, or how your products got routed into the US, right? They could have been diverted into China. You get the best intent, and they come from Canada, but somehow they get diverted over to China. Somebody manipulates it, and this is actually a news story that was out about a year ago, where shipments for Cisco products, I believe, were intercepted, and they had embedded some spy chips in there, and then made it to the end goal. So the whole process from start to finish needs to be trusted. Period.
Yeah, and that's it. That's interesting. There was something in the news about physical and cybersecurity and being so intertwined. And I had physical security reporting to me until about 2 months ago, and then we reorged. But we work really closely with our global security department on like CTPAT, which is the customs program for ensuring the security of our international supply chain.
Yep. Yeah, I put that there's a story. I think that's one of the stories. That might not be the exact one you're talking about, but it's related to what you were talking about. Stories, kind of managing the cyber physical threat. I kind of feel like I wish I had the video. A little video insert, like I do my video insert. I wish I kind of had the little video of why can't we be friends? Why can't we? Anyway, but that's I've gotten so many dings already from YouTube about copyright claims on the music that I put out. So I'm just gonna have to stick with video clips because I don't get copyright claims on video clips, but the music industry is like so. Anyway,
even if you sing it yourself.
Singing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good point, but I don't know. I don't sing good enough to be a replica, though, so we'll have to see.
You sing good enough to stay out of jail.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about that again. All right. Okay. So, horrible night. All right.
I just wanted to give you a perspective on this thing. So most people, and we're talking 62443 right now. So most companies will get 1 or 2, maybe 3 sections from 62443. I was little part of the 62443 implementation with Rockwell, and I think you guys have to adhere to every single section in there.
Yeah, that's a big deal, and we report our 62443 status to our board of directors, so I'm the one that reports on that. And
I'm sorry.
Well, it's so funny because the woman at Rockwell, Shoshana Wojciech, I
remember her.
She's like the mother of our secure development life cycle. And I remember when I started at CERT and I met Shosh, and she was talking about 62443 4-1, and she's rattling off all these numbers. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'll never remember these. Now I actually present it to the board. But
I'm sorry again.
Because when she was so passionate about developing this secure development life cycle, I thought it was important, but I didn't get how important it was until the years went on. And now the executive order comes out, and not only do we have to have a secure development life cycle, but all of our suppliers for our products have to. Yep. And I said to Shosh, it's so exciting to see your passion turning into something that is just so important. So you're right, Pascal. And I think in that area in particular, the ICS community is farther ahead than the IT vendor, companies that produce cloud-based software, just IT-based software, because the 62443 is a big deal, and we all are striving for those certifications. And you have to develop your SDLC, then you have to get it certified, then you have to operationalize it across your entire global company, train every single developer, That gives you another level. Then they come in and audit you and make sure that they want to see artifacts from just, hey, developer Joe over there in Poland, show me your artifacts to prove you're following it.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. And in the ICS community, I do want to put a plug in that we're ahead of the game there. And now it's easy. We already started to push it into our supply chain because that's part of 62443.
Yep.
You that's a fantastic, insider testimony, and not just any insider. I mean, Pascal, you're just any insider at Rockwell. We're pretty much hearing from the top, as far top as you can go in terms of security. And so that's wonderful. I love that, not only, are you getting to, express how important security is, the narrative behind it, just stories that you have with the personnel that are involved in your SDLC and all of that. It really illustrates a narrative that's contrary to the claims out there that vendors aren't doing anything. So, I mean, it's refreshing to hear, but it's not unexpected, at least not from my perspective.
Yeah, I hate that anybody like slamming anyone. You look at companies like Colonial Pipeline. I mean,
sorry, I have to interrupt you real quick. By the way, nope. So we're not. So okay, we'll do that. We're not going to do the shameless plug, but you did mention Colonial, so we do have to do that one for everybody in the audience. But we didn't warn you about the drink one in the green room.
We'll let this one slide.
Yeah, we'll let.
Wow, supposed to have a glass of wine for this.
If that's
okay,
your
now
poison.
I'm ashamed.
Here's my favorite bottle of wine. Someone gave me this as a gift for presenting at a conference. Fugitive. Is that the perfect thing?
I have heard of
someone who worked in Insider Threat. That was like the most.
I feel ashamed. I feel ashamed because it's not that we didn't warn you. Now I feel like we didn't give you an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm drinking coffee.
I'm so sorry.
You can switch to the wine, but we do recommend you use a glass. We are a classy podcast.
Yeah, so
let me drink out of that bottle.
Yeah, get your paper bag, some T-Bird. So I apologize, but we're not doing the shameless plugs because the whole reason why we want Rockwell on here is to express their side, her side. So we're not going to do shameless plug banners. We'll do the drink banners though. I'm sorry. Please proceed. And okay. I feel so bad.
Okay, so Colonial Pipeline. I get really upset when I see them getting beat up because of them shutting down the pipeline. Because in my mind, I look at them and they are the first company I've ever seen that was able to sever the connection between IT and OT when the ransomware hit. I mean, typically the ransomware hits in OT, IT and spreads into OT. And typically, I've never seen a company that could press the virtual red button and shut down that connection. Because if that ransomware had gotten into the pipeline, it would have taken a lot longer than a week to get that pipeline back up and running. So I get upset when anybody gets criticized, for their security program or what they did or didn't do, because we're all trying really hard. If you're in security, for the most part, 99% of us are doing everything we can.
You make the best decisions you can with the information you have at hand at that time, right?
Right.
I don't completely agree with what you said. They separated IT from OT because from what I understand, they just shut everything down to prevent getting ransomware on that. So that's to me. Yeah, that's also a decision that's not made lightly, right? And it's especially because we have a news article that goes on there. It has far-reaching repercussions because the lawsuits are coming for them.
Yeah, that's a good segue, actually. So let's take Dawn off the hot seat, and let's now. I mean, so yeah, our story. So our first story in the news, actually second because I already showed you one of them. So all of a sudden now we have, I guess, what you would call victims or consumers and companies claiming that there were when they say hurt. Now, I don't think it's physical injuries so much. I guess there are some because of the hospitals in that case. And I don't personally know all the details of this story and whom all it is that are actually suing companies for falling victim to ransomware themselves. But this is kind of like, this is like the antelope kicking the lion when the lion's down. I don't know. Maybe that's a bad analogy because I'm terrible at analogies, but this is a new revelation. What do you guys think about this?
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to watch it really closely. I'll tell you that much, because we just every year we do our strategic planning for our security program, and we calculate we do our risk calculations, try to quantify the different security risks, and this would have a big impact on that quantification if you can be sued by your customers. That's a pretty scary thing, especially like what I just said. I have to stick up for Colonial Pipeline and what they did. So I'm really going to watch that one closely.
Yep, I'm going to have to.
Just because I said Colonial Pipeline again.
Oh, no, you said it again. So anyway, when
I got you for one you said back on it. Okay. Yeah.
When I first read the article, sorry.
Go ahead, Pascal.
Yeah, when I first read the article, I'm like, yes, we're going to make progress. People are going to be held responsible. And I started thinking about it. Where does this end, right? It's at the moment, Colonial did their best decision they could make. And should they be reprimanded for it turning into something that they couldn't predict at that time?
Yeah, sorry, I got to catch you on that one too. But
and where does it stop, right? If for some reason an attacker manages to get a piece of ransomware or malware on a controller, and the controller is Alan Bradley, and can they sue you for it? But then on the other hand, what if the controller was in an old firmware and it was upgradable? So where does this stop? Where do you draw the line that says now you can sue and now you can't? And who's going to make the decision? That's scary stuff.
Well, and the problem, I think, is in a lot of places, I mean, at least in America, we're a very litigious society. And I think that, especially consumers, but I mean, at some point, I think that you'll have abuse of the court system. I don't think that lawsuits are the appropriate reprimand for these sort of things, unless there is verifiable or at least demonstrable negligence. And then I'm digging myself into a hole, because I guess if you're susceptible to ransomware, there is a certain amount of negligence and everything like that. So I'm kind of on both sides of the fence here, in that on one hand, it's not appropriate, but what reprieve do the victims have? And if it is negligence by the company who themselves are a victim.
Yeah. And I guess that's why companies have all of their processes in place, and whose fault was it really? They'd really have to dig in and figure out, were they negligent, or did they have, all of a good security program in place? I mean, let's face it, these ransomware attackers are really good. And so it's really, nobody can say, oh, we are 100% secure. They can't get us. No CISO in their right mind would ever say that.
Yeah,
think about it. You have a Rockwell, 10,000 plus users, right, worldwide, and everybody with their own mentality. You got remote access, you got vendors connecting, you got web servers, you got all of this stuff. An attacker, and I keep coming back to this, an attacker has to be right just one of those 10,000 plus times, those attack vectors. And us as CISOs and as protectors, we need to be right all the time to prevent that. It's just not going to happen. So
get one employee to click on a phishing email.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hairy situation with these lawsuits until they get more standardization in the laws as to, like, what's a valid case. And in this, I mean, that's the problem with new frontier type, just like cyber insurance, which I hate talking about. And, when you have lawsuits, and these are class action lawsuits now due to, on one hand, I can't sit here and say I hate pharmaceutical companies because, all the class action lawsuits and all this other, and sit there and, laugh at all the class action lawsuits and pharmaceutical companies. And on the other hand, say, well, it's not right to have class action lawsuits against companies where people are getting hurt or, like in the hospital situations because of cyber negligence or whatever. I think there has to be a line drawn somewhere as to what constitutes gross negligence and what is not acceptable, but we can't be, like you said, we can't be 100% secure all the time. Otherwise, it's open season on the lawsuits.
Yep. Yeah. And that's a scary thing.
Yeah. That equates, like you said, Dawn, that equates into your, as a vendor, into your risk calculations. And it makes things really difficult. Let's move into the next story. And we're not going to get to all of our stories that we have on our list, but some of them are kind of like, we'll see if we get to them. There's some big ones that I like. These first two, a lot of interesting conversation on these first two. So let's talk about the other aspect of what the vendor is doing. So on one hand, you have vendors getting sued by their customers, but you have now Kaseya apparently has the unencryption key now and is making their customers, their downline customers, sign non-disclosure agreements in order to get access to the unencryption key. Thoughts there? I feel like Tucker Carlson.
It's kind of unclear how they got the keys. So I think it's kind of interesting. If they paid the ransom to get the keys so they could give them to all of their customers, then I know people say don't pay the ransom, but you could look at that and say, wow, that was very nice of them to do that. And I don't know what the big deal is about signing an NDA. We're going to give you a decryption key. We don't want you to then release it to the world, because if they did pay the ransom and the ransomware group, part of that agreement was you can only give it to your customers. I don't know what the big deal is about the NDA, honestly.
Yeah, and I guess I should have brought the story up, and I didn't. And the specific details, and I don't think that there are details about what the NDA is. And so, like you said, we don't know if they actually paid the ransom, how they got the unencryption key. And that's the two key points, right? Number one, did they pay the ransom? And number two, what is the NDA for? And I don't think they talk about.
First, slap me if I'm wrong.
I'll slap you anyway.
Didn't our evil disappear and released these keys anyway?
Yeah, that's what maybe that's what it was. I think it was, before our evil, it was what was the one before our evil? Well, my mind's going blank now. Anyway, but
not Shadow Broker. That's a couple of years ago.
But they're all kind of disappearing, and then who are the ones that basically said, "Oh, we're sorry, we didn't mean to take down." We didn't mean to
those were the ones for Colonial.
Take down Colonial. Yeah. So, but anyway, they said, "Here's the keys. Here's the keys." That's not this one. This one here, we don't know how they got they did. I guess they disappeared, but now they have the decryption key. I don't know. Maybe they got droned and they found it. Who knows? But either way.
Interesting, though. This is the second one in a row to disappear. Is the U.S. government taking action against these groups?
I would hope so. Or if it's not the U.S. government, at least I would like to think that the nation where these actors are in are taking action. But you don't know that. Okay, so they're Russian speaking, but does that mean they're in Russia? Does that mean they're in whatever? Does that mean Kazakhstan? Does that mean they're in Georgia? Whatever. So
it could be a smokescreen, right? Oh, let's put some Russian words
exactly.
in there.
Yeah, attribution is so difficult. So but if you find, it doesn't matter. Obviously, if they found them, then attribution worked. But it's this is evil Clint saying, I would like to think somebody's getting droned over it, but I don't. you don't know
No.
what's happening. But I think getting beyond the aspect of how did they obtain the key is more importantly, is it justified for NDAs or, because we don't know what's in the NDA. So, I mean, what are they
sue us right there, right? No matter what you know about us,
but that wouldn't be an
NDA.
NDA. That would be an indemnification clause, right? So maybe they're just making them sign indemnification. Maybe that's it. And the media got it wrong. I don't know. This is kind of a new story. It just came out. But this is just me. I think if something happened, I would ask for an indemnification. If say, hey, I got the key. Sorry this happened. My bad. Would you mind signing an indemnification if I give you the key?
Especially when you pay $70 million for that key.
Yeah. If they did, but
yeah, that's the amount that was in that article. That's a lot
They
of
probably
money.
negotiated with it. But then again, who did they negotiate with if they disappeared? And the portal, the customer service portal wasn't there anymore. Who are they going to negotiate with?
Which isn't that crazy to begin with, that REvil has a customer service portal.
Don't even get me started on that. It's just,
you
I'm in the
know,
wrong business. I got to put a different hat on.
And it can't be any worse than Microsoft tech support or customer support. Or, I mean, it makes you wonder: is it the same call center?
Yeah. Hold on.
How do they compartmentalize this? So
okay, now you're going to make me put my Rockwell hat on and say we're partners with Microsoft. So
now we give you the shameless plug one.
Microsoft remarks.
Yeah, I think I will have to just throw that one in there. But I, as a consumer, will slam Microsoft lightly because it's popular and trendy to do. I will say that my comments do not reflect on Don or Rockwell. So her comments and their comments are their own. I'm curious we have quite a bit of viewers, and I would be really curious just to see some comments from our viewers on what do you think about the lawsuits on companies that get that are victimized by ransomware. So victims of victims. And what do you think about this NDA? Does anybody have any more information on the NDA? I haven't been able to find anything on whether or what's contained. I think it's probably an indemnification, and it was mislabeled by the media as an NDA. Maybe. Because I can't think of what would be in an NDA. We already know that it was, we already know how many customers that were affected downstream. There's a lot we already know.
Well, unless it's way more than they initially said. That's right.
Point.
But yeah, I think your suspicion is probably more valid than it being an NDA, because you just don't want them to come back and say, okay, thank you for the key. By the way, here's a brown envelope. We're going to sue you. Please show up in court.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So, I would definitely like to know more about that. We've got
when we were talking about supply chain before, this just points out how the supply chain attacks just keep changing. Like if you look at Excellion, am I going to get a drink label for that one? No.
Nope. Only the other one, which I'm not going to mention.
Excellion very interesting because you have two companies that are using this Excellion product for secure file transfer between them. One of the companies owns the product. So by definition, the information in that product is confidential, or else they just email it. So then company A owns Excellion, their product gets compromised, and company B's, and they probably have a whole bunch of customers that are using that product. All their customers' information now has been compromised. They get extorted for they get extorted for money to not publish all that information on the internet. So all these companies that were sharing information with their partner, vendor, customer, whatever, they have no say-so in that extortion. They don't even know what happened necessarily.
Yeah.
And, it just really made me think about our contracts. Should we write something in there? if you have our information and it's compromised and you get extorted, I want to be part of that decision.
That's
mean,
a good point.
That's an
Yeah.
interesting point.
Here's a comment from our audience. So we have a few different comments. So TJ says, it takes just one landmark case to set the precedent, then all lawsuits will follow suit. No pun intended. Ha, I like that. But that's true. It only takes one, and that is precedent, and that's huge, right? Precedence is a big thing, right? I mean, that's once you set a precedence, it's like the interwebs, right? It's like Google. Once it's there, it's there. It's hard to take back. My favorite, I like this one. Robert says, anyone can sue a company for anything. You can literally sue a ham sandwich. I guess that would literally be the case for JBS, wouldn't it? At least the ham.
That was pretty good.
I didn't make it onto a sandwich.
There's a lot of comments here. I'm not going to go through everyone. I think here's one opinion. Mostly bad idea. Potential open floodgates, especially in the U.S. So exactly, that's kind of what I said. Well, we sue for anything and burn hot coffee, and I know because I did sue McDonald's. I'm just kidding, I didn't. But and he did correct his spelling, by the way, with the coffee. So I don't want to throw him under the bus.
So I agree that this is reaching out. This is too fast, too early. This is crazy. But I think there should be a consequence for companies like that, and it's still debatable whether the Colonial was at fault or not, and if they were negligent or not. But I think if it's proven their negligence, they should be held accountable. But what would that look like? You got any opinion on that?
Well, Robert, speaking of negligence, says a good defense against all lawsuits for negligence is having a documented governance process that is adhered to. And I kind of agree with that. And then I'll turn it over to Dawn. But I think in a lot of cases, and I've dealt with a lot of pipeline lawsuits in my past, and in a lot of cases, having a process is a defense. Like, for example, if you do a vulnerability assessment and don't do anything about it, that's called roadmap to litigation, because now you've exposed your vulnerabilities and didn't do anything about it. Whereas in a lot of cases, especially auditors and assessors, they don't necessarily need to see that you have everything fixed. But if you have a process in place and you have a program in place and you're working on it, that goes a long way. So thoughts, Dawn?
Yeah, I know. I was in a CISO meeting where they had a tabletop, and the company's product ended up in someone dying, a security vulnerability in the product. And that was what they really hammered, because as part of the tabletop, they ended up having different people in the group play different roles. The CISO, the CEO, a board member, and they had to testify in front of Congress. And that's what they were getting hammered on, was that your responsibility? Who made the decision not to fix that security vulnerability? And so it was like, do you have a well-defined process that says what you do when you discover a critical security vulnerability? And that was the thing that they really hammered home, was you better really have all of your processes in place, and you better follow them.
Yeah, I think that's key. I think that if there's two takeaways from this entire show today, it's one, vendors do care about security and they are working on it. Number two, having a process in place is key, because we're not going to be able to fix everything. Nobody is. But understand, admitting you have a problem is the first step. And then having a 12-step program to fix it or whatever is the next step. So, and I think that's key for everyone.
It comes down to due diligence, right? Your due diligence is to continuously get better. You don't have to have everything perfect right away, because first of all, you don't know what's wrong in the first place. But having the process in place that go out and check in the first place, and then having some resources to go out and actually fix some of these, what you consider the low-hanging fruit or the most obvious stuff to fix, having that in place gets you a long way already.
Yep, I agree. we are down to about 30 seconds of our main broadcast. Any final thoughts on this before we close out our main broadcast, in which we'll, after our main broadcast, we'll talk a little bit about Dawn Rockwell, whatever she has going on. Any last thoughts? Any final thoughts? I've already said my final thoughts.
I'm just going to point
style,
out we made it through 2 news articles out of 8 today, so I think we're doing awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, we admitted in the green room, right, that some of the lower news articles were kind of like fillers. I think that we all agree that the main ones we got to. There's one thing I do want to say, one thing we didn't get to, which is, with the there was a cyber attack in India on a critical infrastructure, and then we also have ports in South Africa being hit by cyber attacks, and then Israeli water systems. It's well publicized that the water systems were hit by cyber attacks. With all this stuff happening, it's interesting for me to see that it's not just happening in the U.S. It's happening all over the world. It's like the Oprah show for cyber attacks. You get a hack, you get a hack, you get a hack. And it's increasing and it's everywhere. And I think that'll be a good segue for probably next week's show and talking about the global exposure that's happening. But I think we're going to have to end it there on our main broadcast because we are at a quarter after and that ends. So thank you very much, Dawn, CISO at Rockwell, for being on. Before we end the broadcast, what do you have any special things going on? Is there anything you want to talk about with Rockwell? This is the last few minutes of the show after our broadcast. It's kind of your time, to shine.
This is your 15 minutes of fame.
Wow. Okay, I'm not going to take 15 minutes, but I really do appreciate you giving me the opportunity to just talk candidly about, how seriously we take security. And, a lot of these vendors, if you look at like SolarWinds, you look at all of these companies that are being hit, it's really tough. And I can tell you as a CISO, like when you use the phrase keeps me up at night, like these things literally do keep us up at night.
I'm surprised you get any sleep.
That's what the wine is for.
And so I became CISO in 2016, and we started by looking at our IT security. And then we looked at our manufacturing security. And then NotPetya and WannaCry hit. And that changed the world for me as a CISO, because seeing, and I think I talked about this pre-show, not during the show, so tell me if I'm myself. But when I saw that NotPetya was pushed out by compromising a tax company's software distribution mechanism, I immediately thought, wow, if that was Rockwell, like if Russia could do that to us and compromise our software distribution mechanism, they could get into critical infrastructure all over the world. So we cannot let that happen. And so that's why we've been looking at supply chain since 2017 and looking at our development environment. Pascal, from when you were at Rockwell, we've had.
I actually went to some of the customers who were affected by NotPetya. So yeah, I know the pressure.
Yeah.
Continue.
So when you look at just NotPetya pointed out to us that, what we need to do at Rockwell is we need a holistic security program that encompasses everything. At that point, we had security all over the company. We had security services, we had a product security office, security subject matter experts in all the development teams, some of the development teams, IT security, OT security. But in 2017, we developed what we call our Connected Enterprise Ecosystem Cybersecurity Framework. If you can come up with a good acronym for that, I would appreciate it. But it shows we have to protect Rockwell. So IT security, OT security, supply chain for manufacturing, third-party risk. And then we have to protect our customers, which is our products, and the third parties involved in those products. M&A, mergers, acquisitions, partnerships, everything involved in our products. And then we have that in between, we have the connectivity, our connected services and our solutions and all those third parties, cloud providers. And we created this one holistic security program, which I think I haven't heard other people talk about doing this, but I'm a huge advocate because This means I work with our chief product security officer and with our VP of services and with the product teams. We all work under one security program, and I report it all to the board. And we look at our security risks across the entire company. So it's not IT fighting for money for IT security and manufacturing fighting for money for manufacturing security and product teams fighting for money for product security. We're all in it together. So when we go to our CEO and his staff, and then we go to the board and we say, these are our highest priority security initiatives, you can't get any better than that. That means that all of the security leaders in the company have agreed this is most important. And so I really advocate for companies to look at it that way. But there is one neck on the line, and that's mine. So you have to be careful that there is someone who is responsible for pulling all of that together. So,
which is doable when you get the funding and the support, it's doable, right? If it's an uphill battle, that's a different story. Then you'll probably be drinking that bottle of wine by now. I like to say though, the mentality within Rockwell is it exactly that. In customers often have difficulty getting funding for cybersecurity initiatives. Within Rockwell, you mentioned secure by design, and I think you should use that phrase more often. But if you use secure by design, you get funding really easily because that's their mentality. They want it to be secure right off the bat while they're designing it.
Yeah, and our customers say, how do I know I can trust the security of your products? And I tell them, okay, well, it starts with the secure development life cycle. Every developer in our company is trained on it. We have level 3 certification, so we've been audited. So everybody develops from just like you said, build security in. It's built into every single thing that we develop. And then we have the product security certifications. So that means that those products that are certified to 62443, they meet the criteria for a secure product. And then we have certifications for our services and solutions. So when someone's coming to your plant, we have a secure process for how they service you. So yeah, and now we're looking at risk assessment certifications. So that's my story for our customers. How do you know you can trust us? Well, those certifications, they aren't easy to get.
I know,
right? Yeah,
work and years of work. So that's proof. And I think that's what we need to look at in the IT community, because the SolarWinds types of attacks, those are going to keep coming. And so we really need to look at what can we do in the IT world to get everybody on that same wavelength like we are in ICS.
Wow, that's a fantastic perspective and testimony straight from the CISO's mouth, from Rockwell, an ICS vendor. And I think that I don't know the stance and the programs from any other vendors, quite frankly, but it sounds like that, you guys really are, leaders when it comes to ICS vendor security programs. You're leading the pack, if not the leaders. And so, that's fantastic. And I applaud you. I applaud Rockwell for your efforts, applaud you for your efforts. And especially, you've got the weight of an entire ICS industry globally on your shoulders, and you seem to be handling it fantastically. So I applaud you. So,
well, it's funny. My personality before I became CISO, I was, oh my God, what are we going to do about that? Then I became CISO and I realized, oh, you can't be like that. You have got to be calm. So you have to change your personality when you become the CISO.
You can do that inside, but for the rest of it, you need to, we'll handle it.
Yeah.
You have to subdue your passions a bit there. So, well, you know what? It's been a real pleasure. This has been a great perspective. This is a much needed perspective, and the rest of the world, needs to hear from ICS vendors like Rockwell. Thank you so much for being on our show, Don Cappelli, CISO, Rockwell Automation. And, you know, I don't have anything else to say. I mean, it's like you dropped the mic for yourself. And I mean, it's been great. So thank you very much for being on the show.
It was fun. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem.
And we'll end it there. You know, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Pascal. Thanks, Don. And we'll see everybody next time.
Bye.
Bye.